We're about to get into what's going on with portals. And so last week we ended with the Houska Castle, or also known as the Gateway to Hell. That's that castle in the middle of nowhere, Timbuktu nowhere, in the Czech Republic. And basically the Nazis had an obsession with this thing, but it was called the Gateway to Hell because it was a giant crack in the limestone there that they believed that these hybrid creatures were coming out and slaughtering mainly their animals and their cattle and stuff, but there's people that were going missing too. And so the king built a giant castle on top of it with no stairs from the courtyard going up, and the defenses, rather than pointing outwards to keep things out, it was pointing inwards to keep something in. And then he covered it with stone plates and built a 2-story chapel dedicated to Michael the Archangel. As we know, he's the one that takes on the spiritual war, the spiritual battles. And so obviously there was something going on there. And as soon as that thing was built on there, the slaughtering stopped. But apparently it's still a area where a lot of paranormal people and UFO people and all these demonologists and stuff, they like to gather there because they all believe that there truly is some type of portal, some type of gateway through that crack that castle sits on. And so we're going to expand more when it comes to portals and stargates, those type of things. We're going to be talking about holograms. We're going to be talking about time and dimension and time travel and that type of stuff as well. Things are going to get a little bit weird there for those who haven't necessarily looked into that subject. We're also going to be taking a look at astral projection as well as the CIA gateway process. And there's a lot of stuff. It's going to be interesting. I'll tell you what. Yeah. So when we get into this, I'm not a scientist. I have an idea. I believe I have a good understanding of this. I'm definitely not going to be able to get into like super crazy physics and mathematics and stuff like that. I don't do that. So I'm going to try and just lay the basic foundation of how this stuff works, because I think in order to understand astral projection, to understand dimensions, to understand time travel, to understand portals, we have to have a basic understanding of the concept of time and whatnot. So portals, gateways, stargates, etc., all require the use of dimensional travel. That's the important thing to understand. Even something like time travel requires dimensional travel. Now, I still get questions, which it's no worries because I haven't necessarily done anything specific on it, but I've made in passing. Is time travel real? Do I believe in it? Absolutely. I absolutely believe time travel is real. Now, do I believe that anybody's actually done it? I don't know. I don't think so. I tend to lean in that direction, but I do believe that it is absolutely possible. Depending on who you ask, the amount of dimensions can go anywhere from 8 dimensions to 10 dimensions to 11 dimensions. I've even seen 14 dimensions, depending on where you go, what type of religious or scientific background, who you talk to on that. For the most part, the scientific community tends to go with 10. 10 makes sense to me. Even Chuck Missler, if you want to take a look at Chuck Missler, he tends to go with 10 as well, or he did. He obviously knows the answer now. See you soon, Chuck. But he goes with 10. Again, if you start looking into things like the Arcturian star seeds, they believe that there's actually 11, with the 11th dimension being the one that holds the highest group of Arcturians called the Elders. So it just, again, it depends, but the scientific community tends to go with 10. I tend to lean in that direction as well. Now, when we operate, where we operate now, you know, the space around us, many people, even to this day, still think that we only function in a 3-dimensional world. It's wrong, actually, because we actually function in a 4th-dimensional world, with the 4th dimension actually being time itself, which I think is something that people either forget, they just can't wrap their minds around, which I understand. That's definitely something that can turn your head upside down if you don't have excuse me, if you haven't looked into it. But the time itself is actually physical. It is a physical dimension itself. And so since we live in 3 dimensions of physicality along in time, we technically function in the 4th dimension. Now, time is awkward. It is definitely awkward to understand. I'm not going to claim that I even understand it fully. Again, I'm just going off of the studies that I have done when it comes to it. So I'm not declaring to be an expert. I don't think anybody actually truly fully understands it, just like I don't think anybody actually truly understands the dimensions either. I think that's a concept, not a concept, but a thing. We'll just say a thing, me and my vocabulary, a thing that we're just not going to truly understand until we exit this place, get our new bodies, and head up on home to the throne of God. But we can have a somewhat of an idea when it comes to this. But it is an awkward thing to understand. And again, once you have a grasp of the physicality of time, it is a fourth dimension. And with interdimensional or hyperdimensional travel, however you want to talk about it or describe it, makes it so time travel is indeed real. The biggest thing to understand about time is, again, space can bend time. Think about that for a second. Space, our world, the elements of our reality can bend time itself. And it's actually been proven in scientific stuff. Time actually changes according to elevation. And the higher you go up compared to the lower you go down, time will actually go faster the higher you are. So that's why a lot of the time when we look at some of the, a lot of the time we look at elevation when it comes to clocks and different time zones all over the world and stuff. That's why clocks never seem to actually run on the exact same time. Even the most brilliantly made clocks, the what are they called? The atomic clocks. Even if you look at those, one that is down, I think it's at or just above or just below, I can't remember exactly, sea level, compared to the one that we have in Colorado, which is much, much higher. The one in Colorado actually runs a little bit faster than the atomic clocks. And those are the best running ones that we have that are running on the exact same principles. It's just according to time or according to space, it has altered time. Higher elevation, again, actually makes time slightly faster depending on how high you go up. Direction around the globe has also been proven. They have sent aircraft, the same aircraft, same pilot, same direct, or in two opposite directions. And the one that was going east lost time compared to the one who went west and actually gained time. So actually going in different directions altered time a little bit as well. So you are actually seeing moments here of the space that we live in altering time itself, which means that time can bend and move accordingly. Time alters according to things like elevation, distance, acceleration, and even direction. All of this stuff is able to move and bend accordingly. If time is able to bend and alter according to physical things, according to space, that gives us two things that we need to understand. Time itself is physical. It is part of the dimensions. It is physical, even though it's not physical in the way of like this desk. It is still physical, and we can feel time. How many times have you guys, again, how many times have you said, though, it's like you're feeling the effects of time in some type of way? Well, jet lag is the effect of time. You are feeling time according to the jet lag, which also has to do with elevation as well as direction and acceleration. It's altering your body. It's having an effect on your body. You're feeling it. Also, time slowly deteriorates our body. Every second that we move through this timeline, our body slowly deteriorates. That is an effect time is having on us, which shows that it is indeed physical. The other thing that it tells us is time alters according to physical, as in man can manipulate it, which means time travel. How many of you have ever seen the movie Back to the Future? If you have not seen Back to the Future, I don't know where you've been. Sorry, it's in like my top 5 movies of all time. Back to the Future, whether they realized it or not, was actually giving us a little insight when it comes to the alteration, the physicality of time. In order to pass through time itself, to go through that dimension and come back in a different time period, what did he have to do? hit 88 miles per hour. He had to have a certain amount of acceleration in order to pass through and break through time and head to the next thing. Now, of course, there was like the flux capacitor, which that's not real, but still, it's just giving us a little snippet that there's something there when it comes to altering time through, again, the effects of space. So I think that's a couple things that we got to understand when it comes to this. Now, you can start going in all these different directions and start learning a whole bunch of different things. And there's other tests that they've done out there that does prove that time can bend according to the space and according to different effects that man can do. But through these things alone, just the little things that I went over, it does prove that you can alter that fourth dimension of time, which we are living in, and it does bend and move and alter according to different variations of what we see in life. And so is time travel possible? You tell me. If you can do that, it's definitely possible. Now, the question becomes at that point, has anybody ever done it? Again, that's something that, again, I don't think we're going to know until we're out of here. I tend to lean no, that's just me, but I do believe it is possible. Especially since we've had people who have seemed to receive information from the Council of Nine on how to build time machines. One was George Van Tassel and his Integratron, which he never got to actually complete, but that was supposed to be a time travel thing. And Nikola Tesla, these two guys never met. Nikola Tesla, however, also seemed to receive this information. And before he died, he claimed that he had the instructions on how to build a time machine as well. Now, what makes this so interesting is both appear to have received the same information regarding the same technology, because neither man actually met or went over each other's studies, but both of their technology and their inventions are based off of the same instruction and algorithm and technological advancement as well. So they probably got it from the same entity that was probably trying to give them some type of way to time travel. So there's something to gnaw on if you want to take a look at that. Okay, so do we got it? Everybody an expert on time travel? Everybody an expert on time and all that stuff? Again, just the basic foundation. I think it's important that we understand that, especially when we start looking into things when it comes to black holes, white holes. I don't know if anybody's ever heard of those before, and wormholes. I'm sure everybody's heard of that as well. So how does this work? A black hole looks like a sphere. If you've ever seen the entrance to a black hole, it's like a big black sphere. And what happens is gravity increases within it, and it begins to distort all of space and time around it. So space and time then folds in on itself, completely cutting itself off from the rest of reality in our dimension. So basically, this thing starts to happen where time and space starts to fold in on itself, and it creates this black hole that then cuts itself off. Since it's time and space has folded in on itself, it now removed itself. It's still in it, in our dimension, in our reality, but it has removed itself from our timeline, so to say, and it's sitting there in its own distortion of nothing, pretty much. And what's interesting about a black hole is, just like the Hotel California, you can enter the black hole, but you can never leave. Just like everybody does this, all right? You can check in, but you can never check out. Yeah. Well, basically, that's what's going on with a black hole. Things can go in it, but they can't ever escape it. They can't ever come out of it. Even light. Light can go into it, but it can never leave. That's why it's black hole. There's no light, so it's black. If you remove light, it's dark. So that's how it goes. Okay. So it can go in, but it can't go out. Anything, everything. Once it goes in, can't go out. The white hole is the opposite, or it's determined to be the opposite of the black hole. Nothing can enter the white hole, but anything that was in it gets immediately ejected out. So it's the exact opposite of the black hole. Things go into the black hole, but can't leave. The white hole, nothing can go into the white hole, but everything that was there immediately gets ejected. What does this mean? What do these two holes mean? We've seen black holes. We actually have black holes out there right now. The concept of a white hole seems to be that, just a concept, though. It seems nobody's ever actually seen those. They haven't been able to discover them. It's just something that hasn't been determined if they're actually there or not. But these two things can play a part when it comes to a wormhole. Everybody knows wormholes. Movies reference wormholes all the time. A wormhole is described as the formation of both a black hole and a white hole on top of each other. So basically, it would be a black hole and a white hole forming together type of thing. An object would be able to enter the black hole, escaping our dimension. Remember, the black hole cuts itself off from time and space of our reality. So anything that would go into the black hole would then escape our dimension and then would immediately get ejected out by the white hole. That's the concept of what a wormhole would be. Again, they're saying that they've never seen them or anything like that. Again, you got to go off of, if they're actually there or not. It's up to you to determine if that's legit, especially when you have weird phenomenon out there where things open up, like one's the Bermuda Triangle, where it's just things just seem to vanish type of thing. So you got to think in that type of direction if you want to take a look at it. But since these two holes counter each other, the wormhole, hypothetically, from scientific understanding, would only be able to exist for a moment before it would collapse in on itself. It's also believed that once you exit space and time, you would then get thrown out, and you could be thrown into a different time and space entirely. So basically, what it does is hypothetically, a wormhole would be a tunnel where an object would pass through it at extreme rate of speed, and you could be launched into the future, or if you go in reverse, you would be launched into the past. Now, again, there's some movies out there that take it where you get launched into an entirely new reality in itself. That's when you start getting into the idea of multiverses, which we're actually going to cover when it comes to the holographic theory, the hologram theory. So we're going to talk about that as well. I told you this was going to be a weird one, but this is part of what goes on with the aliens and demons and portals and all this stuff. So it's important to understand. But basically, a wormhole is a combination of a black hole and a white hole that creates a tunnel where you would then do dimensional travel and pass through time, and you could get launched forward or back. Ultimately, that's what it is. Everybody an expert on it now? I hope so. Okay, so we've got that. How does this work biblically? How does this work with God? Well, if time is a dimension and if time is part of dimension and the physical, as well as able to bend according to elevation, acceleration, direction, distance, etc., then just as Scripture tells us, God sits above all of those things. Does he not? Seriously, does God sit above our physical space? Does God sit above acceleration and speed? Does God sit above our elevation? Does he sit above all that? Well, God also sits above time as well. Time does not affect God, and so he is outside of these things. Now, he's able to come in and move things, but he's still outside of all these things. God sits above time, which is why he's not affected by it. What does that mean? He was always there and he has no end. Now, this, when I was younger, and I still know people to this day, and I'm probably going to get them really irritated. Sorry. But when I was really young, this was a concept that I just could not get my head around. Like, as a human being, I could not, I wouldn't accept it. I could not accept it because the idea of a time has to have a beginning. I could understand having no end, but I couldn't understand not having a beginning. So I just could not get my head around the fact of, well, God didn't begin at any time. He was just there. He was just always there. How is that possible? Because he sits outside of time. Time is a dimension that we're in. He sits above it. So there is no time where he is. So he was just there. Always there, and he has no ending. Just like the concept of eternity, we tend to think of eternity as a timeline that just keeps going, as it just goes forever. Well, actually, eternity, where God is at now, If there's no time there, then that means it's not a timeline that just keeps going. Eternity is just eternity. We are separated from time. That is what eternity is. Those who died, I'll give you an example. And this is always one that I see a lot of questions, not necessarily on my channel, but also I've seen them on a bunch of other prophecy guys channels as well. People tend to have this question. Give you an example. Those who died 2,000 years ago and those who will get raptured in the future, they will appear at the throne of God at the same moment. No, on that one. Because when we reach that moment, we will be passing through all of time. We will then be sitting in an area where there is none. And so those who died 2,000 years ago and those who will be raptured in the future, they will appear at the throne of God at the same time. Now, see, the problem is people then go, well, where are they now? Where are all the people who have died now? Where did they go? If they gave their life to Jesus, they're in heaven. They're there now. Because in our dimension of time, they're there now. But once we pass through time, we're all going to get there at the same time. Isn't it great? I know. This is something that, again, it takes a moment if you've never looked at this stuff before. It really can take a moment to process this and try and figure it out. But you have to understand that time exists in our dimension, but God sits above it. So everything that happens here for us obviously happens in some type of moment, some type of click in that clock. But then once we pass through that dimension, we will appear at the same time accordingly. So again, that's something that you probably, if you've never heard it before, I know there's some people watching right now that have looked at this and go, I got it. But I know there's some people who've never looked at this and going, I don't know. There's no way. And again, it took me a while too when I was younger. But again, once you figure this out, this little box thing that I'm putting, again, there's a lot more to it. I'm just doing the basics here. Once you figure this box out, so much more is unlocked. It's like you're looking at, like a map, and there's just a whole bunch of fog on it. Once you figure that part out of how that works, a lot of that fog will go away and things then start to make a little bit more sense as we roll through. Understanding time as bendable, as well as God sitting above it, allows us to answer many questions that we have. So, why did we go over all that? What on earth does that have to do with aliens and demons and all that stuff? Let's talk about portals. Yep, I said we were going to be talking about it this week. We're going to talk about it this week. What does this have to do with portals? A portal is an access point for other dimensional beings like demons and spirits to enter and or leave our dimension. A lot of these beings aren't able to just zip in and out of dimensions like God can. They require some type of opening, some type of doorway in order to get through. These are doorways that allow travel between dimensions for these beings. So, I'll give you an example. Visualize, or you can just look around the room that you're in right now. No, because that won't. Okay, visualize with me. Use your imagination. This is an active one tonight. I need you to visualize this. I don't have a thing to throw up on screen, sorry, but just visualize it with me. A room has 6 sides, right? You got 4 walls, you got a ceiling, and you got a floor. Okay? Picture just a room. No windows, but one door. So a room with a door. For us, in our dimension, as human beings, in order to get into or out of that room, we have to pass through that door. We can't just walk into the wall. Go ahead and try if you want to. You're just going to smack right up into that thing. We can't pass through walls. We have to go through that door in that room. Other dimensional beings would also need some type of door but it would be a door for their dimension. So they don't necessarily need a door like we have, but they would need some type of door between the other dimension that they're sitting in and that room that's there. They would also need that door. They can't pass through that wall. They need some type of way to get through. However, again, if we look at this from the aspect of God, God sits above these. We see dimensional travel that exceeds portals when Jesus got his new body. Now remember, let's go with the six-sided room again. But now we're in the upper room. And we got a whole bunch of disciples sitting there freaked out, locked the door, windows are closed and locked. They don't want anybody going in or out. They don't know what's going on. But yet Jesus appeared. But there was no portal. He just appeared. Jesus entered the closed room with no portal, without opening the door, without climbing in through the window, but yet is physical. He's able to be seen, able to be touched, able to be heard. He even asked for food. How'd he do it? It's kind of like the old riddle of what is it? Cowboy rides into town on Friday, stays 3 days, and leaves again on Friday. How did he do it? Well, the horse's name is Friday. Everybody knows that. But how did Jesus do it? Well, his new body is a new dimensional body that is able to pass through dimensions freely with no limitations. There's no limiting factor, but yet is still physical to us at the same time. We're going to get those bodies. The same new body Jesus got. We will also have those bodies. We will be able to, like God, just picture it. You got, say, 10 dimensions. So you got 10 pieces of paper. God's able to just put his finger right through those without making a hole and then bring it right back out. Well, Jesus in his new body was able to do the same thing. Now, we're not God, obviously, but we will have bodies that will be able to go just like that and also be physical in our dimension that we live today. Again, gnaw on that one. But hey, that's how scripture defined it. He was able to enter into the upper room that was locked, just appear with no portal, no doorway, no window, and still be able to be physically touched and able to touch our stuff. There was no limiting factor to it, but yet he was still able to pass right on through. You guys excited for those new bodies yet? Oh, I know I am. It's going to be great. All right. So just sorting all this out. Time is physical and can be bent, altered, and traveled through. There are different levels of dimensional travel. God sits above these. Jesus in his new body can function within our dimension without being limited by our dimension. We good? We good? We got it so far? All right, portals. So a portal is something of a doorway for these beings, these dimensional beings, otherly dimensional beings, and spirits to use to access our dimension. Now, many pagan religions over time are believed to have specifically crafted these doorways for the spirits to come through, while some are unknown to who built them. Now, there's a bunch of things out in the world right now that we just like, who, what, how, these types of things. Now, it's important to understand that the beings that come through can also build portals as well. Now, there's the argument of, are the ones that can come through today, are they able to do it? We understand back then that they were able to do it. Specifically, the Nephilim were able to build such doorways. But are they able to do it today? That's a question I don't necessarily have an answer for. So if you're looking for an answer for that one, I apologize. I don't have an answer. But it's definitely something that humans can do. We understand that. Some of the most famous portals or stargates or doorways, spiritual doorways. We can find them all around the world. And one of the most famous one, we're going to go through a few in case you're curious, want to know what's going on around the world when it comes to these things. Some of them include one that's called the Gate of the Gods, which is a mysterious door in the Marca Mountains in southern Peru. So if we take a look at this thing is the Gate of the Gods. Nobody has any idea how that thing got there. But it is believed to be a gateway back in the day that the spiritual gods would be able to come in and out of back then. There's also believed to be a stargate at Abu Ghraib, Egypt, called the Place of the Gods. They're so creative with their names, aren't they? Gate of the Gods and Place of the Gods. This is at the base of a pyramid there. And this is supposedly another stargate where energetic beings can pass through and from other parts of the universe. Okay, some people might be asking, what on earth is a portal? What on earth is a stargate? Portal is something where it comes from a different dimension. Stargate is something where it comes from a different part of our universe. So that's simply put. There's a lot more to it, but I think it's just easier if we just explain it in layman's terms like that. So this is believed to be some type of a stargate. So it would be an energetic being from other parts of the world or planets, say, like the Arcturian or something. An Arcturian could come through this stargate. What's interesting is the stories of the energy. Now, this is where we start getting a throwback. So if you haven't seen earlier parts of this series, you might not understand what I'm going to say. But what's interesting is the stories of the energies that came through the Place of the Gods there in Egypt are actually similar to the Cherokee legends of the Pleiadians and how they traveled to Earth. Interesting. Some might say coincidence. I don't believe in coincidence. Same stories, same energies, same demonic beings. Hey, let's just put it simple, right? Now, another believed to be some type of a gate or doorway, I found that it's kind of mixed on what it would be, is actually Stonehenge. Not the Stonehenge. No, Lake Michigan Stonehenge. I don't know if many people know about this. This is at the bottom of Lake Michigan. Yes, they have their own Stonehenge at the bottom of Lake Michigan. It's also defined, and this is the most common one actually that I found. It's actually defined mainly as a wormhole. So that thing, that Stonehenge there at the bottom of Lake Michigan would have to form a black hole and a white hole in order to create this wormhole that a lot of people think it is. And it's thought to be the reason for many mysterious disappearances in the area. If you want to take a look at how many people have disappeared in Lake Michigan, it's pretty wild. It's nicknamed the Michigan Triangle. Yes, taking after the Bermuda Triangle on that, which again, a lot of people think that the Bermuda Triangle is indeed a wormhole or possibly a stargate. That's one that I really want to know about because I can't find answers on it. I cannot wait to go up to heaven and go, God, what's the Bermuda Triangle? I'm gonna want to know, man. That one is I've always been obsessed with that ever since I was a kid because I want to know what that thing is, man. I'll tell you what. What's interesting about the Michigan Triangle there, the thing at the Stonehenge at the bottom of Lake Michigan, the local Indian tribes, again, here we go with the Native Americans, try to keep outsiders to a minimum because they don't want people disappearing within it. Again, a lot of the paganistic Indian Native American belief systems really do match up with a lot of this stuff as well, as we've seen over the course of this. And then, of course, yeah, I was going to go there. The Stonehenge. That's those are believed to be multiple gateways or doorways for them. Still to this day, to be one of the biggest mystery creations on our Earth, of course, is the Stonehenge. Many involved in spiritual studies as well as UFOlogy believe that this is, in fact, an energy portal or stargate or star doors, however you want to put it. And there are several reports, which again, these are just witness accounts, so take them with a grain of salt, obviously. Reports over time claim that eyewitnesses have seen lightning strikes on the rocks as well as blue light, like beams of light coming from the stones. Could be some type of passing through of some type, something to keep in mind. And then, of course, there are other ones. There's a bunch out there. You guys can go deep diving on that stuff if you want to, because there's a bunch of them out there. Some very interesting ones that we just don't necessarily have time to go over. Plus, we understand that there are beliefs that the Georgia Guidestones were a portal or became one. Something was unleashed. It was some type of locked door. A lot of people believe. I personally tend to lean in that direction. I don't necessarily have an opinion, but I tend to lean that it was some type of locked door, that when they were destroyed, that something was unleashed. I don't know what, but things seem to shift around the world when that happened. And then, of course, everybody knows the CERN sites believed to be that they are creating portals, or opening them. At least they've got portals already there, and then whenever they turn that thing on, it just opens it. We don't have anything that confirms that necessarily. There's a lot of stuff that's pretty interesting about it. So if you want to dive into it, we're not going to get into the CERN stuff, because again, it's majority speculation, and I don't want to do majority speculation on that. But the range of these portals is pretty big. Now, there's different types of portals, and I don't mean a portal, Stargate, doorway type of thing. No, I mean there are different types of portals themselves, and I think that's also important to recognize. I picked out the ones that I think are the most important for us to recognize, because these things are ones that we can see, and if we're not careful, we can come across them, which I think is very important. And I know some people don't believe in this stuff. I know Christians that don't believe in this stuff either. And I think it's very unwise not to be aware of these things, because again, there are Christians out there that don't believe that having symbols in your home, or little totems, or little type of things, or even practicing like yoga, or practicing with the Enneagram and stuff like that, they don't think that that's anything. Oh, that's just a bunch of hogwash, just things trying to scare people away or whatever. No, this stuff is legit. You talk to people that have been in the occult, and they warn you, stay away from this stuff. If you have it in your home, get rid of it. And I'm with them. I've said the same thing. If you have the symbolism stuff in your home, I've done the same thing. I've gone through all my stuff, even things like symbols on CD cases and little stuff. I just threw it out. I don't care what it is. I don't want it in here, because that stuff is like magnets for these demonic beings. You do not want this stuff in there, just like you don't want to create portals either. Now, I'm not saying you can just stumble into a portal. That's not going to happen. But you may come across somebody who has made one in their home, whether they realize it or not. Now, that is something that can very much happen. So what are some of the types of portals that I think are important to understand? You got natural portals. You got sacred site portals. You have time portals. You have personal portals. And then you have ritual portals. Natural portals are ones made from nature, like from a mountain or a tree. There's different ones out there. I think there's a waterfall out there too, that the cave within it is believed to be a portal as well. But these are natural portals. Again, probably ones that were back in the day when the Nephilim were walking around. They probably made these things from them. Sacred sites are ones from pyramids, temples, and or stone circles. So like the ones that we see with Stonehenge, as well as Lake Michigan Stonehenge. And there's other ones out there. I think there's one in, is it Brazil? I don't think it's Brazil. There's one out there. It's like the gate of the sun type of thing. And you could tell that somebody made that thing out of stone. Those would be sacred sites ones. Those are usually cultural places of worship, where people of that culture, of that tribe, of that religion would meet in that specific area in order to try and open it up, channel, bring in some type of spiritual entity from their belief system. And so that it would be a sacred site portal. Next up, time portals. Time portals is channeling an entity or spirit, or no, that's a different one. Sorry, my bad. Time portals are your wormhole style portals. So if this was indeed a wormhole, again, we don't know. This would fall under technically both. It would be a sacred site and a time portal. Time portals are, again, your wormhole style portals or time travel portals. These would be things like stargates and stuff like that. Van Tassel's Integratron, as I said earlier, that was supposed to be one of these. It was a time travel device, as well as Nikola Tesla claimed he figured it out as well. So a time travel device would be a time portal. So again, look at just my mind went completely blank all of a sudden. The DeLorean from Back to the Future, that would technically be a time portal, because you're not necessarily jumping through like into a spiritual realm, but you would be jumping through time type of thing. So that would be a time portal. Personal portal. Okay. What I was saying before. Personal portal is channeling an entity or a spirit from within yourself. Yes. This means you are making yourself a portal inside yourself. You want to know the quickest way for demonic possession? This is exactly what it is. Now, I still have people asking questions. Can Christians be possessed? No. The Holy Spirit and a demon cannot be held in the same host. It just doesn't work. The demon loses every time. So when you become saved, when you accept Jesus Christ and the Holy Spirit enters you at that moment of salvation, you are sealed and it ain't getting in you. The demons ain't getting in you. Now they can oppress you. And as Christians, we come across that all the time. They can oppress you, but they can't possess you. However, if you are not sealed by the Holy Spirit and you make yourself a portal, you're asking for serious trouble, including possession. This includes channels and mediums. We went over this with like Maria Orsic, where she channeled a demonic being into her, which then spoke through her. You made yourself a portal. You're allowing that demon to speak through you. It has come through into you. And so you are now a portal at that point, at that moment. Meditation is another way to create a portal. Now, it doesn't happen on all meditation. That doesn't mean the moment you say Om with your legs crossed that you're going to become a portal. But a lot of the time, it certainly can do that. As well as you, even if you want to take this further, if you go into Tibetan Buddhism, they have a thing called a tulpa, which is actually the creation of which you can't create one, but they define it as the creation of a sentient being that you can interact with, but it can also take control of your body as well. So basically what this would be is another form of channeling. You are now channeling a demonic being, which you will be able to interact with and can take control of your body. And so that would also be a form of being a personal portal. Then we have ritual portals, which is probably the most, misunderstood, I guess is the best way to put it. The most misunderstood, because a lot of people would look at a ritual portal and go, oh, a Ouija board is a portal. A Ouija board actually isn't a portal. Now, it's a totem, a magnet that can bring beings to you, but it's not a doorway for them to pass through a different dimension. And there is a difference there. If you want to start getting into semantics and technicalities and stuff, which, again, I don't think it's worth it. But, again, I'm not endorsing Ouija boards. I'm just saying it's not a portal. Don't do Ouija boards. Again, that's one of those things of you just don't do it. But a ritual portal is for a way for the occultic and the paganism, witchcraft, those types of things. They tend to open doorways for spirits and beings to pass through. Usually requires a physical door or window. That means you can turn a window, a doorway, a mirror, even a TV. Yeah, like the show Black Mirror is part of that as well. Like a TV screen, those types of things, you can actually turn those into portals to allow these beings to come through. It usually requires some type of physical thing. And again, a Ouija board and stuff is not one of those. But again, don't do it. Just don't. Seriously, don't. I shouldn't even have to say it. I'm going to say, don't do it. Just stop. I see you. You're thinking about it. Don't do it. Now, there are so many ways to bring these demonic entities within our area, which is why it's so important that we keep away from them. Just don't do it. Just don't do it. Now, we got an idea here. So we got dimensions, we got time, we have how that functions on a basic level, an understanding level. We've got portals and how they're able to do it. We got different ones. We've got the different types of portals. Then plus we got stargates and the energy doors, and we see what's going on with that. What about holograms? How does this play a part into this? When it comes to holograms, there are some different topics to it. There's varying degrees of this. This is a massive subject. I'm not going to take on the whole thing. So if you're expecting a huge thing on holograms, no. But I'm going to cover a couple of them. Now, some of the topics of the subject of holograms, some say that reality around us is a holographic projection that we move within. So this is the hologram theory, or the holographic reality theory, where everything around us is actually a hologram. And I don't know how else to really explain that. They think everything is a projection of a hologram. They also say that everything around us is just a projection of energy from the collective mind. This is theory of mind. And I went over this a lot on the End Times New Age series. Theory of mind is the belief of, the best way to describe it, most simplest way for people to understand. Everybody knows the sky is blue. The reason the sky is blue is because the collective mind, the majority collective mind around the earth, believes that the sky is blue. If the majority collective mind around the world believed that the sky was green, then the sky would change to the color green. And so people think that everything that we see around us is a projection of the collective mind, the collective consciousness. And so the reason things look and feel and taste and sound the way they do is because the collective mind believes them to be as such. And this would be a part of the hologram that we're a part of. We're able to change it according to our mind. Okay. We good? Now, then there are hologram programs like Project Bluebeam, which formed from the Project Blue Book. I'm still working on this one. When I was organizing my notes and all my stuff for Project Bluebeam, this is something I've been looking at for a while. But when I was organizing my notes, came across some stuff that was interesting that I wanted to dive a little bit deeper into. So we're not going to get into that today. We'll see if we'll get into it next week. So I know there's some people waiting. It's like, is he going to talk about it? I'll talk about it, just not today. Then we have the spirituality belief that our souls are holograms of ourselves. And here's where we start getting into the multiverse stuff. Okay, so everybody, maybe not everybody, but a lot of people know about the like the superhero movies and stuff that they're doing, where there's like multiverse. They're able to go through different universes and there's different things happening, and all that type of stuff. Well, this is where that comes from. It's actually a spirituality driven thing where our souls are holograms of our, or hologram projections of our bodies, which are also holograms as well. This is where we're going to start getting into some weird stuff. So many in the holographic self belief, that's what they call it, the holographic self belief, or the practicers of it, believe our bodies are just holograms and our souls are just the voice of our holographic selves. Many within this belief also believe in the multiverse, where there are thousands of other versions of us, where they live thousands of different versions of our lives, and so on and so on. So they believe that there are, we'll just say like this. Let's say I made 50,000 decisions between an A or B choice in my life. So there is now, including this one, 50,001 versions of me and 50,001 versions of the universe that I live in out there. So every choice that I make in life will then create another branch of that. This is honestly a belief system that many people truly believe in. And so when we come to the A or B choice in life, you know, just like, well, am I going to take this job or am I going to take this job? Well, if you take job A, well, then a new universe where you take job B has just been created. And so that new version of you in that new universe is going to live its own life accordingly. I know. There's some people out there going, you got to be kidding. I know. They also say through meditation and astral projection, you can then access other dimensions and or even possibly explore those other universes and other realities out there. And my camera just disappeared. I don't know why that happened. Bad timing. Give me a second. I'm back. I don't know why that happened. It just disappeared. I don't know. Okay. Can you guys see me? I'm like stuttering around. I don't know what's going on. What is going on? Okay. Is it good? I think we're good. Okay. That was weird. I don't know what's going on with that. Sorry about that. That was bad timing. Okay. I think I'm smooth now. Okay. Smooth criminal. Sorry. Okay. Lost track of where I was at. Give me a second. I just trying to deal with that. My mind just went completely in another direction. Okay, here we go. Okay, got it. So through meditation and sorry about that, guys. Through meditation and astral projection, they believe that not only can you then explore the different reality of the world and the dimension that we're in now, but they also believe that you can jet out into other dimensions and the other universes and realities that you have then created. So they believe in that. Now, when it comes to astral projection, there's still some people that I know, they think that it's, again, hogwash. It's something that's not possible. Astral projection is a real thing. This falls into the class of both witchcraft, like into the witchcraft and slightly bit of divination and type of stuff. This is something that is actually possible. Don't do it. Don't do it. This is actually a real thing that can happen, and churches out there are starting to teach people how to do this stuff. Yes, self-proclaimed Christian churches are trying to teach people how to do this stuff. And there are some people that, I mean, they do it and they explore these other things, and you can come across different entities and stuff. Just, I've talked about it in the past. It is again, you don't want to be involved with it, but it is absolutely real. Now, the mechanics of it and how far you can go, I don't know. Because a lot of it has to do with, is what these people saying or real or not? I don't exactly know how far you can go, how far God allows you to, what you can see, where you can go, what you can do. I don't necessarily know, but this is something that is indeed possible to do. So don't do it. I've got a couple things here that is going to kind of show you what's all involved when it comes to it. So talking about astral projection, before we go any further, we're going to hear from a woman by the name of Elizabeth April, who channels, and she has an entire website and study and podcast and all this stuff about it. She actually claims to channel messages from the Galactic Federation. Yes, the same Galactic Federation that Ashtar and the Pleiadians and all them are a part of. So let's hear from Elizabeth April about her astral projection and her remote viewing. And she's going to go to a place that a lot of people find curious. Check this out.
When I first started getting into remote viewing and astral traveling, I would go to a lot of military bases on planet Earth.
Yeah.
And I was really curious. I mean, what are they doing in these underground military bases, top secret? And a fun story, in one of the times that I explored actually the base in Antarctica, they had psychic soldiers. So when I remote view, I'm never usually seen by humans or soldiers.
But they can see you.
So they had these soldiers who were also remote viewing the base, I guess to protect it from remote viewers like me. And this one ended up seeing that I was, going through the halls of this Antarctic base, and he went like this, and he kicked me all the way out of the base, and he proceeded to follow me to figure out who I was, if I was belonging to a government.
Why are you here?
Exactly. Right? And so I had to kind of pop in and out of many different locations to kind of lose him. But that, there's been some moments very similar to that have freaked me out a little bit, where I'm like, ooh, I got into a position where I shouldn't have been.
Yeah, you're in multiple positions that you shouldn't have been, lady. I'll tell you that much. Channeling these things and doing astral projection and all this stuff, that you don't want to be involved with any of that stuff. But it is fascinating that she talks about how she went to go and try and explore the Antarctic base, or the base in Antarctica, which again, we talked a little bit last week about, the Nazis setting up an Antarctic base, as well as it possibly being one of the doorways into Agartha and all that stuff. But basically, she's talking about this remote viewing, how she sent her soul out there to be able to explore another part of the world, and to kind of see what's going on. And she ran into some psychic soldiers that were able to do and stop the same thing. Now, when she mentions those psychic soldiers, some people might go, okay, here we go, start getting into sci-fi stuff. But this has been a real thing that has been going on for a very long time. World War II, many of the countries, the United States, Russia, Nazis, they were working on psychic soldiers. Of course, we understand what was going on with the Vril Society, with all the mediums and the channelers and all the stuff that was going on when it comes to that. That's a very real thing. But we can also take a look, if that's not enough, take a look at a 1983 collaborative paper from the CIA and the Department of Defense, that's called Analysis and Assessment of the Gateway Process. And yes, this is a real document. I've actually talked about this in like a year ago, maybe over a year ago. But this is the Analysis and Assessment of the Great Gateway Process. This is from June of 1983, and this was a project that was being worked on for several years prior to it. And basically, this is a CIA study. The guy who is McConnell or McDonnell, Colonel McDonnell, I think, was basically told, you need to study on how to achieve astral projection, as well as being able to create psychic, spiritual information gathering. And the goal was to be able to teach soldiers to astral project both time and space. So you could go to a completely different part of the world, either in the past or even in the future, in order to gather intelligence about something and then bring it back. That's what they were attempting to do. And so the study was a step-by-step guide on how to achieve astral projection, but also an advanced version that it supposedly will allow somebody to actually leave all of reality and travel the entire universe, and even any part in time of the entire universe. Yes, this is a legitimate CIA document. And again, we've already seen an IRS report. It was denied, but an IRS report as far as somebody trying to request tax exemption for being a Pleiadian channeler, and they addressed that. And now we've got this that's a part of this as well. Keep in mind, CIA, of course, was formed Operation Paperclip. A lot of the Nazi scientists that were working on a lot of this stuff came over, and they were working on these types of things as well. So it should come as no surprise that they were attempting to do something like this. What we find interesting in the report is a diagram regarding how our universe and our entire construct works. This is the cosmic egg. That's what they call it. The diagram of the cosmic egg. And they believe and they say that our world is holographic. We are a part of the hologram. And it's just an oscillating construct of different types of energy that creates this hologram of the entire universe. But you may not be able to read it, but in the center, where it says the nucleus, it's both a black hole and a white hole. And according to the CIA, back in 1983, our entire universe and our time structure shoots through a wormhole. Yeah. Real CIA document. The report goes on to discuss, again, the holographic reality theory, where we live within a holographic reality, and basically it's a construct. So they take the theory of mind aspect of it, and it is a construct of our collective minds, our collective consciousness. Hey, where have we been hearing that a lot lately? Interesting. So they believe that the hologram is designed according to the collective mind of us. And this is in a CIA document. And so by aligning our brain frequencies and being put into a meditative state, you can use your consciousness to explore the holographic reality at any point in time. This is done through a thing called hemisync, where you're able to sync up your left side of the brain and the right side of the brain in order to make it so you can do this all through frequency. So you just need a pair of headphones in order to do it. You'll notice before we read this, you'll notice that there's a ton of videos out there on YouTube where they use certain frequencies that they say heal people, or meditative frequencies, or frequencies that allow you to project and do these types of things as well. This is what all this is built into. So it goes to say, in order to describe the Monroe Institute technique, which if you want to look into it, the Monroe Institute is a guy, he was a 1950s radio host who figured out that certain frequencies would allow you to give you certain dreams, as well as astral project, and even do lucid dreaming and stuff like that. So that's where that came from. It's all based upon that. So in order to describe the Monroe Institute technique for achieving altered states of consciousness, or the gateway experience, involving brain hemisphere synchronization, or the hemisync, which is the left and the right brain lining accordingly, the most effective way to begin is to briefly profile the basic mechanics which underlay operation of related methods such as hypnosis, transcendental meditation, which is Kundalini. I'll make a comment about that in a second. And biofeedback. It is easiest to effectively describe that gateway is the beginning with a short description of those associated techniques that share some common aspects with the gateway experience, but which are nevertheless different. In this way, we can develop a frame of reference at the outset, which will provide useful concepts to explain and understand gateway by comparison as we proceed. So basically, what he's saying, in order to achieve this gateway process, in order to astral project, how they're describing it, you need to use frequency to get your left side and the right side of your brain on the same pathway, and put yourself in a meditative or hypnosis type state, including the Kundalini meditation. The music coming from places like Bethel and Hillsong and Elevation, Maverick City Music, Passion City, House Fires, all the other ones that I talk about, are designed to get people into that Kundalini meditative state, to invite the Kundalini spirit into the person's body. The same stuff that the CIA is trying to use to leave all of time and space through astral projection is the same stuff that the modern church is putting into their worship music. You think it's just a good song now? I know there's still some people out there going, you're full of it. Okay. Enjoy your Phil Wickham and your David Crowder and all that stuff. This isn't about music, but I just wanted to make that point. let's get back to this. Where we see this go off the rails, if we haven't already gone off the rails already, is that the gateway process speaks that we can obtain, listen to this, that the gateway process speaks that we can obtain the position of God if we manage to escape reality far enough. What we see, this is Gnosticism. Something that I have said from the very beginning. All religions stem from Gnosticism, which was the world's first religion born in the Garden of Eden. And they're saying it now. If you can reach a certain level of astral projection and leave reality far enough, you will then go up to the place of God or the gods. That is Gnosticism. What the CIA is teaching in their report is Gnosticism. Reaching enlightenment or consciousness that allows us to escape creation and become gods that's the foundation of Gnosticism. That is what Satan tempted Eve with in the garden. It's exactly what it is. And the CIA report is trying to teach their soldiers the exact same thing. The CIA paper calls this the God energy. When you reach that point, they call it the absolute, or the conscious energy within infinity. Which again, if you go back to the End Times New Age series, one of the main symbols of New Age, of the mystery religion, is the infinity symbol. Now we see why. So if we take a look at what they call the absolute, I'm not even going to attempt to try to explain what that means. I just want to let you know that it is, in fact, in the report, the absolute in infinity. And it goes through this stuff and talks about the energy and the hologram and all that type of stuff. I just wanted to show you that it is indeed in the report. It is there. But it's basically teaching you, hey, astral project far enough and you'll become God. You'll join the absolute that sits above all of creation. It goes on to describe how all religions, yes, this is the CIA paper that says this. It goes on to describe how all the religions draw from the concept of the absolute. So all the religions come from this belief of the absolute, including Jewish mysticism, Christianity, to Tibetan Buddhism, and even Hinduism. It mentions those religions as all drawing from the absolute. Built within the holographic reality theory is the Gnostic and one world religion concepts, a major indicator of who is behind it. Could it be Satan? I think it is. It's worth noting that even astral projection is something that the church is starting to embrace and even teach. You can find some speaking engagements out there where Paula White is talking about how she astral projected up to heaven. Or you can take a look at the Bethel Church that's actually teaching their kids in children's church how to astral project, to visit heaven with their angel guides. I've shown videos on that as well. And there's other ones out there that are all starting to embrace this, along with other witchcraft and occultic things as well. And look at that, even the same stuff the CIA is practicing. This is a mystic practice that is real, but it is to be avoided as commanded by God. He specifically tells us, do not partake in these types of things, witchcraft and divination and the occultic and all this stuff. Don't do it. And they're doing it. The CIA paper does go on to describe how oscillating energy, so the energy moving at a very fast rate, allows for the formation of holograms that can be touched and even heard. And what's fascinating is they are developing such things as well. Take a look.
We may be closer than ever to recreating some of the most iconic tech in sci-fi history.
Help me, Obi-Wan Kenobi. You're my only hope.
We've seen hologram technology move leaps and bounds over the last few years. Maybe you caught Jesse's look at 3D volumetric displays a few weeks ago. Now, researchers from the Interact Lab at the University of Sussex have created three-dimensional holograms you can hear and even feel. They call their device the Acoustic Trap Display. Essentially, it's using sound to manipulate a tiny particle that traces out these images. Here's how it works. The display is made up of an array of small ultrasound speakers that produce sound waves, LED lighting, and a 2mm bead. The sound waves keep the bead suspended in midair, and they can manipulate the bead's position. The bead moves around the display too fast for our eyes to see, so what we see is a 3D image. And remember, this is genuinely a three-dimensional image. It doesn't just appear to have depth. That means it can be viewed from any angle. Now, believe it or not, this tech is actually inspired by old-school TVs. You may not be old enough to remember CRT televisions, but they created images with a single color beam that scanned across the screen so quickly, our brains registered them as a single image. Another point worth noting, Nature reporter Lizzie Gibney saw this acoustic display up close. She said the images don't flicker in real life like they do on video. But here's where it gets really cool. The speakers can also make the beat vibrate to produce different sound waves, which means these images can freaking talk.
3, 2, 1, 0.
Now, I can't be the only one who immediately started thinking about Princess Leia sending a distress call to Obi-Wan when I saw that. If that doesn't blow your mind, we're not done yet. The ultrasound waves can also generate tactile feedback, meaning you could essentially feel the flutter of the butterfly's wings. And it's true, we're still a long way off from the holodecks we all know and love in the Star Trek universe, but there's no other volumetric display that can produce touch the way this one can. And the researchers behind it say the ability to manipulate matter without actually touching it opens up a ton of other opportunities. For example, you could mix chemicals without the risk of human contamination, or even manipulate human tissue to better deliver life-saving drugs. Scientists say a future version of this device could include multiple beads, making for a more detailed image.
Now imagine, after you just saw that, imagine using technology similar to this on a more worldwide planetary level. Having these things appear all over the place, where people could see, hear, and even feel, oh, I don't know, alien spacecraft, extraterrestrial beings, some other type of beast. I don't know. Maybe like the image of the beast or something. Now here's the thing. This is how I always present this stuff. If they're showing us that, if we're allowed to see that, which is apparently, you know, just a little bead in a little box type of thing, you know they've got something much bigger and better, at least years ahead technologically, behind the scenes that we don't know about yet. Just like when we went over the Vril discs, the UFOs, we weren't allowed to see that stuff. Even the Nazis had their own team of, you know, misinformation people in order to make sure people didn't know what truly was going on. Well, just imagine what they've done with that technology. Now imagine what they've done with the holographic technology as well. Something to think about when it comes to that. Next week, again, I hope to dive a little bit further onto the hologram stuff and kind of take a look at what's going on, where it came from, and all that stuff. Like I said, I found some interesting stuff that I haven't seen before that I just want to look at first before I actually start talking about it. But, guys, we just went over a lot of stuff. I think important things that maybe Christians don't necessarily understand, especially when it comes to dimensions and time and how all that stuff works. But having an understanding of that also gives us an idea of how portals can work and how, holograms can work. We understand that the same stuff that the CIA was trying to push when it comes to astral projection and holograms and dimensions and time and stuff is the same stuff that comes from the Gnostic belief and how we're seeing all that in the different religions out there in the world. It's all wrapped up into the same stuff. I mean, it's literally the same belief systems, whether you're going through the CIA or going through modern day church. It's all there. It's all the same stuff. But again, hopefully this gives you an idea a little bit further on dimensions and stuff and how different portals and stargates, the difference between those and how they work and how demons can pass through these things and appear as aliens and all this stuff. I mean, I think that's key to understanding the aliens and demons aspect of how all this stuff works and how they're able to travel to different places and through things and stuff like that. Because then, we looked at stargates and aliens can come from a different part through a stargate to our thing, still in our dimension, still in our universe, and can do all this stuff. It's interesting. But again, having a grasp on that, I think, is key. But when we look at this stuff, again, what is there to fear for us? Especially when we look at I threw in the stuff. I mean, this is a Christian prophecy channel. This is what we do. But still, I threw in the portion of God sitting above all of that, being able to just take his finger and just go right on through wherever he wants to, move whatever he wants to do whatever he wants to do, and just come right back out. And he's the only one that's able to do that. And then we see Jesus in his new body, who's able to transcend all of dimensions and at the same time be limited and not limited by our dimension. And what I mean by that is appear just without a portal, without walking through a door, without even walking through a wall, even though he's able to do that. He just appeared, but yet still be able to touch and feel and eat and all this stuff. So he's unlimited and still able to interact at the same time. And it's just, that shows who's all powerful, who's in charge. And I think that's the most important thing for us to understand is he's for us. If he's for us, then who on earth, who outside of our own dimension can be against us? No, we have nothing to worry about. We have nothing to fear. We have nothing to panic about. Again, think about that. Think about that. It's even time itself can be bent, and God can just pass right on through and do whatever he wants to. And he's the one that's looking out for you. So what on earth do we have to fear?